California Heartland is made possible by the James G. Boswell Foundation, committed to sharing the stories and successes of California growers. Bank of America, Bank of Opportunity.
Funding provided in part by the California Farm Bureau Federation, proud publishers of California Country magazine. More information is available at californiacountry.org. And by the Almond Board of California. California almonds, loved around the world, grown in California's heartland. And by Real California Milk. This seal ensures your favorite dairy brands are made exclusively with Real California Milk. More information at realcaliforniamilk.com.
I don't think we'll see salmon season next year.
California's salmon industry takes a dive. But while scientists fight an upstream battle searching for answers, see how commercial fishermen get creative to stay afloat. And
we've been farming rice for 70 years.
Chances are you've had dinner with them before. Meet the family in the Lundberg Family Farms label. Rice growers who stand out in their field for keeping it family style for generations.
It's no wonder these are romantic poeticized flowers. They grow everywhere, including Alaska. They're a colorful mainstay to any garden.
Plus tips on how to create your own picture-perfect rose garden. It's all next on California Heartland.
From your backyard to the back country, in a field or on your family table, it's all about what keeps California moving and growing. This is California Heartland.
Take a good look at the Spud Point Marina on Bodega Bay and ask yourself this: what looks out of place here? Well, the buzz over salmon season never made it out of hibernation, and these slips are filled with boats that would normally be out fishing the fertile waters of the North Coast.
I've been fishing since '66, and I've never seen it, like that.
The fishermen now gather across the street. They meet every morning for coffee and a hearty lament over the cancellation of commercial salmon season. How are you making ends meet?
Well, we're living off our crab season, right now. Like everybody else. Whatever you got in reserve from crab fishing, and you never know from one season to the next. If we have a bad crab season, it'd be pretty devastating for this group.
Some have already reached a crisis point. There are reports of homes going into foreclosure, fishermen losing their boats, and some are way behind on the rent in this marina. That's why Tony Anello is trying to reinvent himself. Strict licensing guidelines limit what he can catch, but Anello believes he's found a market for something called a slime eel. There's a hungry buyer in Korea, he says. But first, Anello had to invest 2 months and $20,000 on traps and gear. Now, with everything in place, he's positioned his business around a fish known, oddly enough, as a bottom feeder.
A lot of the guys say, well, why wouldn't we be reduced to fishing slime eels? Well, then I don't know what they're gonna do, because there's nothing else to fish for right now.
Fishermen are a lot like farmers. They take life one season at a time. But the mysterious collapse of the Chinook population, or king salmon here on the Sacramento River, has even experts gravely worried. There's still no definitive explanation for the rapid decline, but critics are pointing to the way water is diverted through the Delta and shipped to Southern California. With that concern front and center, state wildlife officials stepped in for Mother Nature. Back in May of 2008, huge trucks delivered 20 million smolt to San Pablo Bay just outside San Francisco. Smolt are baby salmon, and these were raised in hatcheries as much as 200 miles away.
Fish that have been acclimated to the waters down here in the bay have shown an increased survival. And with that increased survival, we get usually I say, larger runs back to the Central Valley.
This year's ocean release is 4 times 15 million more smolt than Fish and Game has ever attempted. And 25% of these baby salmon have been inserted with a tracking wire that could one day explain their migration and spawning patterns.
Science takes a while, and it is not easy.
Because why they're disappearing is a mystery.
In 2002, we were up at 800,000 fish, and now we're looking at below 60,000 fish.
4 years ago, Brand Little traded a corner office for a life at sea. Not long after that, the salmon population took a dive. Little named his boat the Fair Seas, but the Pacific has been anything but fair.
I've never fished the month of June since I've been in this industry, which is historically one of the best months ever. And I've just watched bigger and bigger closures over the last 4 years until now there's nothing.
Little, though, isn't just a fisherman. He knows advertising, marketing, and consumer trends.
Like 1 pound, like right there.
From that, he positioned himself as the fisherman who could get seafood from the ocean to your dinner table in less than 24 hours. Little knew grocery stores couldn't compete.
A lot of times that fish can be as much as 8-9 days out of the water, whereas we're intercepting it right from the boats right here at North Coast and selling it the very next day, only taking what we can move the next day.
He brokers most of those deals through a series of farmers markets in Auburn, Lincoln, Colfax, and Tahoe City.
I oversee the entire process. I work about 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, literally in the summertime. And very, very picky. I hand select out all my stuff. I like to supervise my cuts, make sure they're the right thickness, make sure I'm getting the top-notch stuff.
Top-notch because even in a slumping economy, there's still a market for good seafood. At one point, salmon nibbled at $40 a pound, and the more aggressive fishermen are laying down $35,000 for a license to fish the waters off Alaska.
If a guy was just a salmon fisherman right now, I know a couple guys, they bought Alaska permits, they went to Alaska, hopes they could, go up there and make it. But I don't know how that's working out.
But the bigger question is this: how's it going to work out on the Sacramento River?
I don't think we'll see salmon season next year.
Really?
I don't.
The fall of 2008 could provide a turning point. Salmon runs on the Klamath and Trinity Rivers near the Oregon border have exceeded expectations. Recreational fishermen have been told they can catch more, but commercial anglers can only hope this is a sign of better things to come. A blue ribbon panel is expected to release its findings into the collapse of the Chinook population. But the most telling moments will take place during the fall salmon run, when experts see for themselves just how many salmon are returning to the Sacramento River.
It's the favorite among winter squashes, and the most versatile one at that. We're talking about butternut squash. The veggie is easy to store and prepare. This thick-skinned squash is loaded with vitamin A, 6 grams of dietary fiber, and packed with flavor. California grows 20% of our nation's squash, making this state #1 in squash production. Food and lifestyle expert Laura McIntosh is bringing it home.
I'm so excited to introduce to you the executive chef from La Treviña, Nash Cognetti. Hi, Nash.
Good to see you.
Thanks
How are you?
for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, tell them the name of this recipe, and I'm going to have you say it a couple times because I just love it.
It's called zucca alla livornese. Zucca being Italian for squash. We're just using good old butternut squash.
Voila. This is a butternut squash. Okay.
So we'll start very simply by just taking our slices of butternut squash, about 1/4 of an inch thick or
They're
so.
beautiful. Look at that.
And just lightly putting them in the flour.
Okay.
You're noticing I'm not putting any salt and pepper on these.
Yeah.
And that's because later on, we're layering this dish with Parmesan cheese. We're trying to do something that's a little bit lighter and a little bit more, it doesn't weigh down in your stomach after you eat it.
I like that. You can eat more then.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
So we're just going to start by putting this butternut squash in our hot extra virgin olive oil, and we're always cooking with extra virgin olive oil. And that's really the only olive oil that we use at the restaurant is extra virgin olive oil.
Okay, can we do 2?
Yeah, and we can do more than 2
All right.
actually. And you'll see we're not trying to really fry the squash here because we're going to bake it in the oven later. So to start it, I'm just going to put a little bit of our basic marinara sauce. Basic marinara sauce, for me, in my kitchen, is just olive oil, garlic, and tomatoes. So once these things start going a little bit, you just want to kind of, and you'll see, like I said before, we're not really frying these to the point that we want to batter them, right?
Correct. This isn't a deep fried squash dish.
It's not a deep fried. So why don't you go ahead and start
doing some more?
Flouring some more of those
okay.
babies.
All right.
And I'm going to take these ones that we have, just kind of shake them free of the olive oil.
And I know most of you are going to want to do these and try these recipes at home because, like Nash said, there's, 5, 6 ingredients here?
Really, really simple.
The recipes are on our website. So check that out, get the recipes, And try them at home.
Next step, we're building this like we would build like a lasagna.
Okay.
Or like I said before, eggplant parmigiano.
Okay.
So we have our tomato sauce, we have our butternut squash. The next layer, we just put a little bit more of that, I said, basic marinara sauce, and then I'm gonna reach around here, I'm sorry.
Oh, some cheese.
And Parmesan cheese. And like I said before, this is not the stuff that comes in a little green can from the supermarket. Grate it fresh and have it be fantastic, because that's the whole point behind the dish.
How many layers? 3,
Till it's
4?
full.
Till it's full, okay.
Till
all
it's
right.
full.
Okay.
And what's gonna happen then in the oven, if you bake it uncovered, is it's gonna get that crust on the top.
Oh, yeah.
That's the action right there, baby.
That is the action.
Crust on
I
the
like
top, that golden brown crust is what you want.
Okay, now you have one done.
I do.
Let's take a look at it.
Let's
Let's see
take
what
a
the
look.
finished product looks like. And did you see how easy that was? Now it's important, remember, you saw that Nash had the oil ready to go. Make sure that oil is up to where you can put your squash in there and it'll cook it pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that looks gorgeous.
Oh, it's bubbling.
Oh yeah, that's what we
it's
want.
bubbling.
My mouth is watering and that's bubbling.
Oh yeah.
That's gorgeous.
So the only thing I would do to finish the dish right now is just to put some fresh
eat it.
chopped Italian parsley on the top.
Nash, easy, fun, and like I said, I'm your eyes, ears, and your taste buds today, and they're already watering.
Simple, right?
Simple, and I only have a little flour on my finger.
Ah, basta così, it's easy, huh?
I'm Cassandra Tucker, and I'm an assistant professor in the Animal Science Department at UC Davis. And this project is looking at using cow showers to cool dairy cattle off. Most dairy farmers do provide water to cool their cows in a mister over the feed bunk. What we're doing here is allowing the cows to turn the water on and off themselves. They do that by stepping on a pressure-sensitive platform. And once they step on it, it sends a signal to the relay and the water starts to flow.
We do a number of measurements to look at temperature and different stress measurements. We do skin temperature, skin sweating rate, body temperature, and respiration rate. We use what's called a thermocouple, and we place it in a shaved square on her side, and we get an accurate measurement on skin temperature.
Cooling cows off is important from a comfort perspective to keep the cows comfortable, but cows that are cooler also produce more milk. Nationally, the dairy industry loses $900 million a year to heat stress. Cow showers help keep cows cool in the summer, and this is good for both the cows and for the farmers.
This is a story about a horse named Sadie who enriches the lives of children on a daily basis. Sadie, along with 10 other horses, live at this ranch near Sacramento. This is the home of Saddle Pals, a therapeutic riding program for children with disabilities.
As you're out there visiting this facility, you'll see a lot of different activities going on. You'll see physical activities going on, you'll see emotional activities going on, you'll see cognitive activities going on out here, and that's what we're about here.
Saddle Pals is part of United Cerebral Palsy and serves nearly 60 children, like 16-year-old Kendra Minden.
Heels down and hold it through the walk. Yes, that was what I was looking for.
Kendra began riding horses with Saddle Pals 10 years ago. She loves animals, so her parents thought riding could help strengthen her weak core muscles.
Gradually, as she got more and more experience and stronger through working with the program, instead of people doing things for her, she's able to do something for someone else. So it really improves her self-confidence and helped her be a very social individual.
It just makes me feel good inside and out too.
What? You ready?
Riding horses allows these kids to work on their strength, balance, verbal skills, and listening.
Yes!
What's amazing is the connection between the horse and the rider. It can be life-changing. Take Justin, who is almost completely nonverbal. He said "Mom" after his first time on a horse.
He wants to touch them and pet them, and as he's cheered on, then he'll cheer on the horse. I know the volunteers get a great deal of happiness from working with him.
Which brings us back to Sadie, the newest addition here.
Sadie's owner just called me up and said, you know, she's retired from her career as a cutting horse. She's had a couple of babies, and she's just sitting around doing nothing.
Monica, Sadie's owner, was familiar with therapeutic riding programs and thought Sadie would be a perfect fit.
Be loved and brushed and played with all day, every day. I mean, she's 22 years old, full of life, sound, happy.
But not every horse fits the bill. Saddle Pal's horses have to be healthy, gentle, and calm.
I'd say for about every 20 calls we get, we'll bring maybe one in on a trial. And of our trial horses, maybe 1 out of 5 to 8 will actually stay in the program.
And in most cases, the horses are leased to the program.
I call it a 100-year lease. They'll use her until she either gets tired of what she's doing or she just gets too old.
We pay for all of their expenses while they're here. We don't actually pay them money for the lease.
A win-win for everyone and every horse and child involved.
She is still our horse and we know she's being well taken care of, but to know on the other side that she's in such a great place, and I mean, I can just picture those kids when they see her. I mean, they go up and just love on her, and that's the greatest thing.
A great alternative for horses who would otherwise be put out to pasture.
People know that we're always constantly looking for great horses. I want to take that waiting list down to 0 and get those other 40 families into this program as quickly as possible.
It's no horseplay. These horses really do change lives. The roots of California's farming families grow deep. This is the heritage of our heartland.
I remember so well that Dad told me one time, he said, you know, when I got here, I thought I had come to the Garden of Eden.
In 1937, Albert Lundberg brought his wife and sons to Richvale, where they began farming rice. And that's where this story begins.
I'm Wendell Lundberg. I'm the son of Albert Lundberg.
I'm Jessica Lundberg, daughter of Wendell and Carolyn Lundberg, granddaughter of Albert and Frances Lundberg.
I'm Eldon Lundberg, and I'm the son of Albert Lundberg. I'm the oldest. Been here on the ranch all my life with my brothers. We've been farming rice for 70 years.
Before farming rice in California, the Lundbergs grew corn and wheat in Nebraska. But 2 events changed what and how they farmed.
Grandpa Albert, I think, was a visionary, and he was also, I think, understood that there were several ways to do things.
The rich soil was not productive for their usual crops, but there was a crop that could flourish in the soil: rice. And after seeing the devastation of the Dust Bowl, Albert Lundberg knew it was important to have proper soil management. So the family struggled as they learned how to raise rice and keep the land fertile.
They have really persevered. They made a set of direction, and they said, this is the way we're going to go.
We sort of had to go alone ourselves for the first several years, and it was real learning, and wasn't all that easy, but it was enjoyable.
The 4 Lundberg brothers were not only good rice farmers, they turned out to be very good businessmen.
We called it Weehaw Farm at that time, and that was for, as an acronym for Wendell and Eldon and Harlan and our father Albert and Homer.
But Weehaw isn't the only name that's changed.
Out on this farm in Nebraska, there was one big cypress tree, and he thought it was very representative of him and of his family, that it was making a fresh start and was standing alone and strong out in the middle of this prairie. So he used the words in Swedish for a single thing, which is Lundberg. And he went to the government office and he asked them to change his name, but his English was terrible. He hardly spoke much English. So when he asked them for Lundberg, they just made a big assumption, well, there's a bunch of Lundbergs here, and they're Swedish too, so we think he said Lundberg. So they wrote down Lundberg on the paper, and when he got back his paper a few months later, he read it and he says, well, we have a new name.
That's what I chose. Right?
It's Lundberg, and so that's what we're going with.
Today, Lundberg Farms is becoming a major producer, of organic rice products.
We were encouraged to look at other professions, and for me this is really where I felt like my skills and my heart told me to be.
I had always loved the farm. I didn't grow up in Richvale, so for me the farm was coming down with my dad in the evenings and turning on the pumps and irrigating or checking the fields, or it was on the weekends or spending the summers down here.
I think it's amazing that it's lasted this long and stayed pure in the family.
I've always loved going out to the fields, and I don't know, it's pretty interesting to me.
You can stick around.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a great opportunity to try and just follow my grandpa's footsteps. So.
Not only your grandfather's.
My great-grandfather's also.
My dad and uncles were talking about how they wanted to transition the company. I didn't really quite see a spot, but this is such a legacy that I thought this is worth putting some time in. And so I found this place for me where I can be working with our seed varieties and certification. I still get to work with the farm.
It's interesting how things grow, just sort of natural.
So, for the Lundberg family, this field of dreams continues to grow, just like their family history.
I think it's a privilege, but also responsibility to do it the way they've done it for 70 years.
Because a lot of family operations haven't been able to stay together. But I want to tell you, it's been a real pleasure to be involved with my brothers, and now with the younger group taking over, it's a real pleasure to come by and see how well things are going. In fact, man, I feel almost embarrassed about how much better they can do it than we can.
Everyone's a farmer when it comes to their own backyard. Try these tips for doing it homegrown.
A rose is a rose is a rose, whether it's a tree, a ground cover, bush, or a hedge. It's no wonder these are romantic, poeticized flowers. They grow everywhere, including Alaska. They're a colorful mainstay to any gardens. And when our California heat and temperatures start to climb, these roses take off. Roses come in all different shapes and sizes, and this is the most classic bush form. This is a hybrid tea, a single rose on a stem. This is what we would put in a vase and what our florists use in arrangements. And then there's a floribunda or a grandiflora, and these are the more bang for your buck type rose. As you can see, a single stem, but a cluster of roses on the bush. And then one of my favorites, miniatures. I plant these in front of the rose garden. We're talking about miniature little buds. The plant itself can become very large, but the buds themselves will stay small. So not a miniature plant itself. And then these, you remember these growing in the back of your grandmother's yard? These are a shrub rose, and they can be placed anywhere. Just let them go and they'll just take off, and somebody will come up and say, what is that gorgeous plant in the back of your yard? It's a shrub rose. And then climbers. These are fabulous. And because it's a misnomer, they don't actually attach to the house. Instead, they need a little support, but they don't attach, and as a result, they're safe for building your trellis or your home. To keep roses happy during the summer months, you need to water consistently and then do something called deadheading. That's a way we trim and tidy up our bushes. Well, it's also a gardener's way of tricking Mother Nature into producing more flower blooms. Roses come with 3 and 5 set leaflets. We're going to take a pair of sharp pruning shears, and we're going to cut above the 5 set leaflet in a downward stroke. Once the rose is removed, you can drop it into a bucket. Now you can do the whole plant at one time or just cut them as they fade. That's what I do and bring them indoors. And then you've always got a little extra color left on the bush. Well, you can plant your rose in a pot or in the garden, but whatever location you pick, you want to get 6 hours of sunlight a day. Now, we're planting in the shade today, and I put on my gloves. We're going to knock the rose bush out of the pot. By that, I mean you tap the pot once we've watered the plant really well, and it will slip right out. Now, this time of year, the nursery has done most of your work for you. As you can see, there's a soil line, and you're just going to match that up. We put a little soil at the bottom of the pot. hold it there and fill in around the edges. You can loosen up the pot line just a little bit as you put it in. The next step, once you fill this, fill it just a little bit full because it's all going to settle down, is to water the plant. Be sure when you water the plant that you water the soil around the plant and not the leaves. So roses don't have to be a thorny project for your home garden. After all, it is the home that you give the roses and the time that you take to stop and smell the roses that really counts.
That's California Heartland. For more information on any of these stories, go to californiaheartland.org. I'm Chris Burrows. We'll see you next time.
Don't move, hold it steady. Moving on to the next rose bush.
To order a copy of this show, visit us online or call 1-888-814-3923. The cost is $14.95 plus shipping. California Heartland is made possible by the James G. Boswell Foundation, committed to sharing the stories and successes of California growers. Bank of America, Bank of Opportunity.
Funding provided in part by the California Farm Bureau Federation, proud publishers of California Country magazine. More information is available at californiacountry.org. And by the Almond Board of California. California almonds, loved around the world, grown in California's heartland. And by Real California Milk. This seal ensures your favorite dairy brands are made exclusively with Real California Milk. More information at realcaliforniamilk.com.